I have a landmine shoulder workout here. Just something I wanted to record while I was in the gym. I hadn't really put up videos in a while. So I wanted to go ahead and share something before the end of the new year. And I really wanted to talk about this topic of moral declension. It's been on my mind for the past month. My notes are very, very scattered. So with that being said, I'm going to do this a different way than the other 5, 6 times I recorded this. So moral declension is, we'll start with the term declension. We know what morals are. So declension is a condition of decline or deterioration, a falling off or falling away, a descent or a slope. And it comes from the Latin word declinare, meaning to inflect or turn aside. I think the basis of this for me was just the fact that we're constantly faced with the pressure or thinking that, what if I fall away? What if I slip off? Especially when it comes to faith. We're kind of hesitant to act on our faith because we're afraid that we might not live up to the expectations or the hope that we might have, because it is a long-term process manifesting that hope. So I think more declension, even before I was saved, for myself, for example, I know before I was saved, as I was drawing near, there were so many times where I would fall off or be drawn away or distracted. And it gets even more prevalent after you get saved. But just acknowledging that I think the fact of acknowledging that you're never going to get rid of it, for one, is just going to be a big help, because you're never going to be able to get rid of it. Which brings me to my 3 verses. I'm going to rattle them all off right now. So Galatians 5:17, for the flesh desires what is contrary to the spirit, and the spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They are in conflict with each other, so that you are not to do whatever you want. Again, this is why I say it's a constant battle that you have to accept it. And it just makes it easier if you accept it. They're always going to be in contrary to one another. So moral declension is always going to be prevalent. And again, once you realize that, you'll know it'll make it easier for you, not only to be aware, but to also process it, acknowledge it, and to rationalize that. And so my next verse is going to be Titus 3:3. At one time we too were foolish, disobedient, deceived, and enslaved by all kinds of possessions and pleasures. We lived in malice and envy, being hated and hating one another. So this goes into a triangle that I was, association triangle here, which on one side there's opportunity, the other side there's the pressure. That pressure can be either the spirit or the flesh, and then there's rationalization. So there's opportunity for the spirit and the flesh at every opportunity. Like Galatians 5 said, they're in constant conflict with each other. So there's clearly equal opportunity for each one of those pressures. It's, again, the rationalization part that we have to constantly, keep in mind. And that's one of the things about moral declension, like I said, that just really stuck out to me, because we have to constantly, put checks and balances on ourselves. And it was just an interesting thought I had when I was looking over Ecclesiastes 9:11, because faith is just as infectious as fear. The only difference is that hope from faith manifests slower, while fear produces immediate results or hesitation. And so if we're going to feed our flesh, then we're obviously going to feed into the emotions that are produced by fear, which of those described in Titus 3:3 are possessions and pleasures, malice and envy. Those are the things we're going to immediately give into, because if we're not, patient in faith and having hope in the spirit, which it says all over the book, we have to be patient in these things and have hope. They're not going to be immediate. I mean, you'll see, of course, you'll obviously see, the good signs, and you'll see it working if you're, again, rationalizing in your mind and be able to see it, and you're seeing those opportunities, then you will see it. But yes, it does take a little longer to manifest that hope where fear is immediate. But again, like Titus 3:3 says, at one time we too were foolish. I'm sure I know I was foolish, disobedient, and deceived. So that leads me into my third verse here, which is Acts 26:29. I just love this. And Paul's talking to the king, and he says, "You think I would be so easily, turned to your faith?" And Paul said, "Short time or long time." I just pray that God, I just pray to God that not only you, but all who are listening to me today become what I am, except for these chains. And again, we're always going to have those chains of how we were foolish, disobedient, and deceived in the past. But whether short time or long time, we just need to pray to God that we'll become, something better, something more. Again, it's that faith, and it manifests slower. So Paul's pretty much saying short time or long time, you keep that faith, 10 times out of 10, you're going to become what he is. And he's just trying to produce or help you get there without these chains. We live in a world, again, the flesh is prone to sin. We are the flesh. We're constantly going to be in this struggle. So we'll have the chains, but it's, again, as I stated earlier, acknowledging that constant battle. That you're going to have the chains. Maybe not as many chains, but you will have the chains. We will be faced with them. And if you have fear, if you keep the cycle of fear because of the chains that you have had, you're going to stay in that cycle of moral declension, and you may never reach it, or it'll just take a long time rather than a short time. But I just pray to God that not only you, but all who are listening will become what he is. So that's just a topic of moral declension. I hope that made sense. If not, please look into it. It's a very, 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 very interesting topic that I plan to look into more and more myself.